Hi everyone, it's Don and I hope you're having a fantastic day as we're getting into the holiday season soon. A lot of people like to surprise their better halves with, or their families even, with a cruise coming up in the new year. But before you take that cruise, I thought I'm going to let you know some tips that I think you really must do before taking a cruise. You should have this list so things don't go wrong. So my first tip is something I tout a lot when you're traveling. If you need to use your computer, your phone, do any banking, anything like that, is to have a VPN. So today's first tip is brought to you by our sponsor. Today's cruise tips video is brought to you by Private Internet Access. Now, if you're not using a VPN when traveling or even in your own home, you are running the risk of having all of your data, your bank accounts, your personal information hacked by nefarious people out there. People stealing people's information, identity theft, is one of the biggest crimes happening in the world right now, and a VPN will help you protect your information, and especially your bank accounts. A VPN really is a must-have these days to protect your personal information from those hackers and people looking to steal anything they can from you. Now, with lots of VPNs to choose from out there, why did I choose Private Internet Access? Well, how about the fact that they allow you to cover not just one, not just two, not 5, not 10, but unlimited devices. I can cover my 3 computers at home, my 2 cell phones, my laptop, and my tablet, all under the same plan. Not only that, one thing I really do like when you're trying to hide your own personal information is they have a no log policy, which means they don't store any of my data, and that's been proven in court by a third-party audit. So why not follow my link below and get 83% off your plan plus an extra 4 months free. That's right, for as little as $2.03 a month, you too can have peace of mind when traveling like I do. You really should be using a VPN both in travel and at home. Thank you again to Private Internet Access for sponsoring this video. On to tip number 2. Tip number 2. Travel insurance with evacuation insurance. Now, a lot of people immediately say, well, my credit card has insurance. Yes, it does, probably. Does it have evacuation insurance on it? Did you check that it has evacuation insurance? Because not all credit cards are created equal. Also, some credit lines have an age limit on them as well. Plus, if you've had on certain credit cards any kind of medical situation in the past year, not 3 months like most insurance companies, year, that could disqualify you from making a claim. So please check your credit cards really think. I know it's an extra expense for your trip, your cruise, etc., but travel insurance with evacuation insurance is never a bad idea. Ask any of the people that I've done stories on this year of people who were injured on their cruise ship and the expense that it can cost, especially if you had to be evacuated. The insurance is a drop in the bucket compared to what that might cost you. Tip number 3, passports. Folks, you can get a 10-year passport for around $200. Why would you not get a passport? And people say, well, I don't need one. I can just use my ID and my driver's license with my birth certificate and I can go on a closed loop cruise. Yes, you can. That means you never travel anywhere outside the immediate area of Miami, etc. You can go to the Caribbean. You can probably, I don't even think you can go to Alaska. But to be fair, all you need to do is miss that ship once. Miss that ship once. You know how many people miss the ship in Cozumel? There are literally almost 100 or so passengers a year that miss the ship in Cozumel alone. And all of those people trying to get back to the States or Canada or anywhere else, if you don't have a passport, it's a nightmare. Because now you got to get a visa, a permit from the US Embassy or the Canadian Embassy. You need something to get you back into the country. You can't just go to the airport and fly home. It is a mess. But if you have your passport and you're missing the ship, your passport will be sitting there with an agent waiting for you when you do get to the dock, and at least you can get home. The expense of all that other stuff far outweighs what $200 will cost you in 10 years. I cannot stress that enough. A passport is the sensible way to go. If you can get a passport, I highly recommend doing so. Speaking of getting in and out of the country, tip number 4 is check your documentation, because a lot of the world is changing. For instance, in 2025, if you're going to go to the UK here in Canada, you're going to need to have a travel permit now, as opposed to just your passport, which is something we never had to do before, because we're actually in Canada, we're part of the British Empire, if you think about it, still with the Queen and everything. But no, we'll have to get a travel permit, and other places are all changing as well. Parts of Brazil are changing to require visas. Different countries are now requiring travel visas. So check what documentation you need. Don't rely on the cruise line to tell you. They'll do their best to inform you a bit, but do your own research, do some Googling, and find out. For instance, if you're leaving from the United States, just Google, can U.S. citizen travel to this country? And it'll come up and say, all you need is your passport. Or it'll say, all you need is a passport and this. Also, when you're getting ready to travel, remember, your passport expires. On your final day of your trip, you have to have, in some cases, 3 months free space between that before it expires, or 6 months. So if your passport is due to expire in the next year, I would be getting ready to send that in before your cruise and get a new one back, so you don't run into any difficulties that way. Number 5, I've covered numerous stories this year of people getting home and they check their phone bill and they have a $2,000 phone bill because they didn't put their phone on flight mode or airplane mode. If you're traveling anywhere on a cruise, the minute you go outside a certain distance, you no longer are hitting land terminals, you're hitting the satellite systems. And the satellite systems are not covered by any phone coverage. Bell Canada, any Virgin, any of them. None of them cover the satellite systems in the ocean. So you will be charged roaming charges, usage charges, etc. while your phone is still on in the ocean or outside of a certain area of land. And yeah, those charges can be huge. So your international plan is great when you're in port, not great when you're in the ocean. Remember, flight mode is your best friend for saving money on your phone bill. And again, I have to stress this again because so many people have been caught trying to fly in the day of. So tip number 6 is get a pre-night hotel. If you are any distance at all, if your flight is 4 or 5 hours away, 4 or 5 hours away, flying on the same day is enough time that a 3-hour delay will make you miss your cruise. So it's not worth it. Bad weather can happen. The airlines don't have enough pilots. There could be bad weather in another part of the country that's affecting your plane getting to you, that plane will be taking you to your destination. So it's not worth not flying in the day before, because your whole adventure and great vacation on your cruise can be completely ruined because your plane was delayed a few hours. Fly in the night before. Tip number 7, speaking of flights, when you book your cruise flights through the cruise line, make sure that they're flying you in the night before. Some cruise lines out there will just automatically fly you in the day of. I've had the cruise lines try and fly me in the day of on a 14-hour flight where I arrive at noon and my cruise ship leaves at 3. Now, I wonder if anything could possibly go wrong with that. No, make sure that they are booking you in the day before. Get that pre-night hotel so you're not caught out there just thinking that, well, they guaranteed to get me to the cruise. Maybe they did. However, in some cases, that's impossible because of laws and regulations of different ports that they're going to. They can't fly you to that port because there's no embarkation, and they won't let you get on the ships. So please make sure they're flying you in the day before. Number 8, when you're getting ready to go home and you're booking your flights to go home, please don't book a 10 a.m. flight. Yes, you may be able to get off the ship in time if everything goes perfect. Well, we're docking at 6 o'clock. We should be off the ship by 6:30 or so. No, that's not always the way it case. Sometimes the customs agents take longer. Facial recognition might be down that day and they have to use actual people to scan people in, which takes 10 times longer to go through customs and immigration. Sometimes there's a problem waiting for a ship to leave your cruise terminal so you can get into the cruise terminal. There are so many things that can go wrong about getting off the ship in time. So if you get a 10 a.m. flight, you're really running the risk of not making your flight home and having to scramble and book other flights. And if they're not covered, if you don't have transfer or anything or insurance, which you should have, by the way, you are in trouble and you'll have to pay for them all over again. So yes, please make sure you're booking at least noon, Give yourself some leeway to get to the airport and make your flights on time. Numerous people out there have said when they're in ports that they get their credit cards scammed, right? Somebody gets their number and writes down their PIN or whatever, and then the next thing they know, there's all these expenses on the credit card. One way to get around that is to go to the stores and just pick up one of those prepaid credit cards where you load the money on that you're going to spend. So say you put $200 on a prepaid card and you can load it up more. You just go online and do it from your bank account. Well, guess what? If you lose that card or it's hacked, that's all you lose is the money that was remaining on that card instead of the potential clearing out of the entire expense. So if you have a $20,000 limit on your credit card and you get home from your cruise and suddenly there's $20,000 bill on your card, that's not a good thing. Much better to have a prepaid card that you only lose $100 or $200. Much less of an inconvenience for sure. And finally, number 10 is always carry a little bit of cash with you. Now, where you're going in most Caribbean countries and places, even Canada, you can get away with using just American money. But if you're going into Spain, anywhere in Europe, you should get euros. But always have some small denominations on you so you can tip and things like that. A lot of people make the mistake of, well, I'm going to take, for instance, here in Canada, if I was taking a trip to the United States, I might take, $1,000 in American money out of the bank to make sure I have all this money on me because I'm going to places like theme parks and stuff like that. Well, they say, what do you like? Oh, 100s and 50s will be fine. And then you get down there and now you only have a $50 bill and you're looking to tip the taxi driver. And your bill for the taxi is $21 and you have a $50. And now you got to get change and sometimes they don't have change because they're a cashless system. It can be a mess. Always carry at least denominations of $5 because it's much easier to tip a $5 porter and pick up something at the grocery store with $5 bills than it is with 50s and 100s. And again, always have some cash on you because as much as everybody takes credit cards and everything, you have a much better chance of never having your credit card stolen or hacked or anything like that if you're paying those small bills, like little cheap things, $5 here, $10 there, $15 here, with actual cash. So do carry some cash with you at all times. Well, those are 10 things that I really think you really should be doing when you're going on cruises, especially if you cruise more than once every couple of years. Have your passports for sure. Do the pre-night hotel. Check your flights. Don't book flights when you're leaving like too early in the morning. I know you want to get home and everything, but yeah, give yourself some time, because if anything happens, everything else can be ruined. So all of these tips are made to help make your cruise just go a little bit smoother in the event that something happens. Well, I hope you appreciate this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. We'll see more tips, more tricks, more travel vlogs from around the world. Hit that subscribe button. Until next time, have yourself a safe and a great vacation.